tattoo is almost laid first.
Not likely, Tattoo, not likely. Ah, it's going to be a glorious day.
On August 7th, 1993, Hervé Villechaize, the iconic French actor whose irrepressible charisma and unforgettable catchphrase, de plain, as Tattoo on the hit television show Fantasy Island turned him into a global sensation, stood before an audience at a small convention in Los Angeles. Fans lined up to meet the man who had once embodied the spirit of 1970s pop culture, the diminutive actor who had once turned every television appearance into an event. Villechaize laughed, posed for photographs, and chatted with admirers. But those closest to him sensed something different that summer. The sparkle that had once carried him from the streets of Paris to the sound stages of Hollywood had dimmed. Behind the grin, behind the wit, there was a quiet fatigue, one that even his most loyal fans could not see. Now a middle-aged man, Villechaize had overcome towering odds from the very beginning to become one of the most recognizable figures in entertainment. Suffering from proportionate dwarfism, he endured years of medical treatments and bullying before escaping to New York in his 20s, where he pursued art and acting. He began painting and taking small theater roles before his breakout came in 1974 as the cunning, sharp-tongued henchman Nack in the James Bond film The Man with the Golden Gun. Standing just under 4 feet tall, Villechaize turned what might have been a novelty role into a performance of intelligence, menace, and charm. The part made him a global sensation and led directly to the role that would define his career. In 1978, Villechaize joined Ricardo Montalban on Fantasy Island, playing the ever-enthusiastic Tattoo, who greeted guests landing their planes on the fictitious island with his iconic cry that would echo through television history. The chemistry between Villechaize and Montalban was electric, equal parts humor, warmth, and tension. And for a time, Villechaize was one of the most recognizable television stars in America, appearing in talk shows, variety specials, and even a series of Dunkin' Donuts commercials in the mid-1980s that kept his image alive in popular culture long after Fantasy Island ended. But behind the celebrity facade, Villechaize's life was unraveling. After being dismissed from Fantasy Island in 1983 amid reported salary disputes and clashes with producers, acting offers slowed to a trickle. His fame had become both a blessing and a burden. He was beloved by audiences, but pigeonholed by Hollywood. The money dwindled, and so did his health. Villechaize suffered from chronic pain due to his condition, particularly severe internal and spinal issues that made sleep almost impossible. Friends described him as generous and artistic, still painting and caring for his pet birds, but he was visibly worn down by years of unrelenting physical torment. And by the summer of 1993, Villechaize was living quietly in a modest North Hollywood home with his longtime girlfriend, Kathy Self. He still made occasional public appearances, trying to hold on to the connection with fans who had adored him, but the pain of day-to-day life had become unbearable. And in the early morning hours of September 4th, 1993, just before dawn, Self awoke to the sound of a gunshot in the home before finding Villechaize mortally wounded from a single gunshot wound in the backyard of their home. Paramedics rushed the actor to a nearby hospital of North Hollywood, but it was too late. Villechaize was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Hervé Villechaize was just 50 years old. I'm Derek Kaufman.
I'm Jason Beckerman.
And this is Last Days, Hervé Villechaize.
The official determination from the medical examiner's office was that Villechaize died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest at his North Hollywood home. He left a note and an audio recording in which he said his health problems, particularly physical pain and breathing difficulties from his internal organs being oversized relative to his body cavity, had become unendurable. This lines up with reports that Villechaize reportedly slept in a kneeling position to breathe more easily and had recently been hospitalized with pneumonia and suffered from ulcers and a spastic colon. As for the recording, his girlfriend Kathy Self reportedly said that Villechaize had placed a tape recorder in a potted plant near the site of the shooting and said, quote, "Well, I just have to do this, and everything will be fine. Kathy, it's not your fault, so don't worry. I love you, okay? I just need to pull this little trigger." After the first shot, she said Villechaize could be heard saying, "Whoa, well, I guess I just have to wait." Investigators found that Villechaize had disconnected telephones and locked the gates of his home, and the combination of factors led them to quickly exclude the possibility of external foul play. No criminal charges were ever filed.
When news broke that Villechaize had died, there was an immediate outpouring of shock and sadness from fans, friends, and colleagues. Obituaries from the time noted his iconic television role as Tattoo on Fantasy Island and his memorable role as Nack in The Man with the Golden Gun. And many commentators remarked on his cheerful public persona, contrasting with his private suffering. His co-star, Ricardo Montalban, who worked with him on Fantasy Island, issued a statement expressing deep sorrow and saying, quote, "I considered his contribution to Fantasy Island as one of the keys to the tremendous success of that show."
The young man who played Tattoo, Hervé Villechaize, was a very talented, very charming, imaginative, a wonderful photographer, a wonderful painter. He was incredible. I don't know, he was such a cute guy. I was so sorry what happened to him, that committed suicide eventually, Very sad, very sad. God rest his soul.
Media outlets seized upon reports of the tape message and note left behind by Villechaize, which expressed in his own words how he could no longer endure his chronic health problems. The message provided a window into his suffering to many people in his life who had been unaware of the extent of his torment and underscored the tragic nature of his death. Fans left flowers, letters, and tributes on internet forums and in local memorials. The tone of many responses was one of appreciation for his work, sympathy for his suffering, and a sense of gratitude for the kindness he showed to others despite his own pain.
I know we'll talk about this more, but
Yeah.
He's this. I can't tell you how famous he was once
Yes.
upon a time, right? He's a little bit young for you, but I mean, you grew up knowing.
I was
Fantasy Island.
very, very aware of Fantasy Island. I watched it all the time at my grandmother's house. He was a towering, iconic
He was
pop
iconic.
culture figure.
Right. He was an iconic figure. Obviously, he suffered from dwarfism, which at the time was something that he like. Even today, it's impossible, very difficult for little people to be given roles that aren't suitable for little people. But at the time, he was not just suitable for these roles. He was also a punchline quite often.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that took a great toll on him. But
Every late night show, de plane, the way his accent and
also
everything.
just like he would have been literally the punchline about short people, about children, and they would have said, "Oh, like Hervé Villechaize," and it just would have been one of those things. But
He was very
nevertheless,
good-natured, though.
He
his
was.
public
He was.
persona.
But after the '80s, after Fantasy Island goes off, occasional bit roles here and there. I don't think he was seen or heard from in mainstream pop culture for a decade or more.
Yeah, he had the Dunkin' Donuts commercials, which were a little bit after Fantasy Island, and
But
it was
again,
the time
those-
to make the
those
donuts
were a
guy.
play off of his dwarfism as well.
Absolutely
Yeah.
a playoff of it. And he really slowed down. He was a drinker as well. He suffered. The guy was in agony. When you read about him, that he had to kneel down to sleep because his organs were so crowded, it was the only position that he could breathe sufficiently. This was a man in physical torment. And he would go to these conventions and he would try to stay relevant, but the roles really dried up. And it's just a very, very
It reminds me
sad
so much
decline.
of the same conversation we had about Andre the Giant. right?
Absolutely. Two sides of the same coin.
Two sides of the same coin. Exactly right. While there was no large, widely publicized or televised tributes to Villechaize, his passing was marked by memorials and public acknowledgement. Media coverage in the days following his death paid tribute to his catchphrase, "De plane," from Fantasy Island, and reflected on what his career meant to generations of viewers. Retrospective programs and articles in later years revisited his legacy, including the 2018 HBO film My Dinner with Hervé, starring Peter Dinklage, which itself functioned as a form of tribute to his life and work. Private memorials among close friends and family were similarly simple and understated. His body was cremated and his ashes were scattered at sea off Point Fermin in San Pedro, California.
The legacy of Hervé Villechaize is equal parts unmistakable and multifaceted. He may be most widely remembered for his catchphrase de plane from Fantasy Island, but his impact reached far beyond a television cliche. His career forged new paths, his persona challenged Hollywood norms, and his story continues to resonate long after his death. Villechaize didn't simply play side characters in popular films and television shows of his era. He became iconic and stole the spotlight from veteran actors en route to becoming one of the most recognizable figures in entertainment and pop culture. On the big screen in the 1974 James Bond film The Man with the Golden Gun, and already 30 years old, Villechaize turned in a performance as the evil henchman Nack and immediately achieved instant recognition and fame in Hollywood, a diminutive figure with outsized presence, wit, and menace.
Hey, that's me! Ow! Oh, hey, what you doing? Ouch! Come on! I can breathe! Ow! You be sorry! I may be small, but I never forget! Hey.
Jason, I wanted to pause here. This is my personal favorite James Bond movie. This is the height of Roger Moore's era of James Bond. It was cheeky and campy. This has, I believe, Christopher Lee is the big bad. It's an incredible movie. And Hervé Villechaize, I wouldn't say he completely steals a movie, but every scene he's in, he is absolutely indelible.
What he does is he lays the foundation for what would become sort of the villains in Bond world from that point forward. You'll have the one guy, the really smart sort of lead dude,
and then the henchman.
Who is either too big or too small. You have Jaws comes in later
with
years.
The metal mouth that can bite through cables.
You've got the really large guy with the hat. There's lots of different characters, but he's the first one that plays that sort of off-kilter, physically different, with a specific skill that allows him to sort of almost defeat James Bond.
Yeah, and not to belabor this too much, there's menace, there's charm, and there's lots and lots of humor in this movie, because in his critical scene that we just played there, he drops from the roof into the bedroom where James Bond is with a woman, and he engages in sort of martial arts fight with him and throwing stuff in the room, and it's obviously comical. He's throwing him around the room and so forth, and it really departed from the Sean Connery could be self-serious at times in the James Bond role. Roger Moore was just chewing it up.
Yeah.
He quickly parlayed that persona into a wildly popular television series starring as Tattoo in Fantasy Island. In the show, Villechaize injected humor, warmth, and eccentricity into a show built on wish fulfillment fantasies, becoming, for many viewers, the heart of the series. His physical stature, standing just under 4 feet tall, made Hervé's presence all the more remarkable. Villechaize broke through an industry that often reduced actors with dwarfism to novelty parts. Think the group of little people who played the Munchkins in The Wizard of Oz in 1939, and Billy Barty, who played numerous roles in iconic films like the diminutive King of Hearts and Alice in Wonderland in 1933. Villechaize proved that magnetism, timing, and charm could transcend stereotype.
Villechaize's legacy is also one of representation and barrier breaking. At a time when little people were rarely cast outside of children's fantasy films or comedic gimmicks, he became a household name. He embodied the rare case of an actor with dwarfism achieving mainstream stardom on his own terms, not through a sideshow lens, but through undeniable charisma and talent. His success forced the entertainment industry to see that audiences could embrace a performer who looked different from the Hollywood norm, and in doing so, he opened doors for future generations. His influence can be traced directly to the careers of later performers, such as Peter Dinklage and Vern Troyer. Dinklage, who has openly acknowledged the struggles faced by actors with dwarfism before his time, has often described how typecasting limited earlier generations. Yet Villechaize's achievements showed that a little person could not only work steadily in film and television, but also shape pop culture itself. Dinklage's layered performances in The Station Agent and Game of Thrones build on a path Villechaize helped clear, a path towards complex, multidimensional roles rather than novelty parts. And Vern Troyer's rise to global fame as Mini-Me in the Austin Powers film likewise drew from the cultural recognition Villechaize helped create, that a small-statured performer could steal scenes, become instantly recognizable, and be both comedic and endearing without being mocked. Both Dinklage and Troyer, in different ways, benefited from the mainstream visibility Villechaize achieved in the 1970s, a proof of concept that audiences could and would embrace actors of all sizes as full-fledged stars. I think Vern Troyer himself got that job because of Hervé Villechaize, right?
Because of Nack.
Right.
I mean, Austin Powers movies are a send-up of James Bond movies, right, and he plays the sidekick of the big bad, right, Mini-Me. So his career is certainly modeled on Hervé Villechaize.
He doesn't have a career because without that movie, he doesn't become anybody.
That's right.
His entire career was
a send-up. Yeah, it was a send-up of what Hervé Villechaize. And I do want to pause on Peter Dinklage, who sometimes can be cranky about he expects very real roles. He is a very serious thespian. He really has a deep, deep affection for Hervé Villechaize, the artist. He respects him as an actor. When he was the one who starred in My Dinner with Hervé, which is that HBO movie, and it's a very, very sensitive portrait of Hervé Villechaize. And Peter Dinklage is a serious actor, yes, and his career, he knows, is indebted to what Hervé Villechaize paved the way for, because we think of him, and many people do, as de plane, the catchphrase, the punchline, but he saw himself as a true artist, and so does Peter Dinklage see himself that way, and they fall in the same lineage in a lot of ways. Beyond his high-profile roles, Villechaize was also a painter, a musician, and bohemian spirit who sought constant reinvention. He often spoke about wanting to be seen as a complete artist, not just Tattoo from Fantasy Island. That frustration of being confined by the very fame he had earned adds poignancy to his legacy. For the actors who followed him, his story became both an inspiration and a cautionary tale, a reminder of how representation comes with challenges and how visibility must be matched with respect and opportunity. But despite his many talents and interests outside of Hollywood, Villechaize wasn't a humorless scold about his iconic image and remained self-aware enough to be in on the jokes being told about him. This is perhaps no better exemplified than when, shortly before his death, Villechaize appeared in a 1993 skit from The Ben Stiller Show, playing a heightened version of himself, aware of his public image and willing to send it up.
You're Hervé Villechaize.
That's right.
You played that too, right?
Right.
You blow me away.
Thank you very much.
No, I'm telling you what you do. It's really unbelievable.
And I'm glad you like it.
No, I'm telling you. I really get what you do. The whole thing, ringing the bell in the three-piece suit, Fantasy Island. I love it.
Really kind.
No, I really respect it. You know, it's got a very special center to it. I think it's beautiful.
Thanks.
Do me a favor. Give me one, huh?
You what?
Come on. We all want to hear it. Come on, just one.
You mean that?
We want to hear it. Come on, right? Come on. Do it.
All right. The plan.
Ah, that's great. That's wonderful. That's amazing.
Jason, the brilliance lies in how Villechaize used his stature and his own well-known persona as comedic tools without reducing himself to nothing more than a punchline. He remains assertive, sharp, and in command of the joke, flipping the expected cute little guy cameo into something with bite and self-awareness. What this clip beautifully captures is Villechaize's willingness in his later years to engage with his celebrity in an ironic way, to lean into the caricature while preserving his dignity and sense of agency. It's a cool clip. You should catch up on Ben Stiller Show. He was way ahead of his time, and he's doing this skit with Hervé Villechaize, who's completely in on the joke, and it's pretty wonderful to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be self-aware, else you become kind of, like, to your point, a scold about it. You know, if you're not self-aware and you're not aware of sort of, you know, a large part of the reason you're here, then you become out of touch and people don't respect you. There's an authenticity in sort of recognizing this who I am. I mean, Dinklage has struggled with that his whole life. Now, Dinklage has become a star, a true A-lister. I think Game of Thrones brought him there, stage agent. He's a genius in. But Villechaize never reached, I think he was as famous for a very brief period of time, but he was never, I think, the respected thespian that Dinklage
Never
has
taken
become.
that seriously.
But nevertheless, Dinklage still himself struggles with it, still wants to be thought of as more than just a little person who acts, and he is. He's an actor who happens to be a little person.
Yeah, and this clip, you have to watch, there's a real intelligence to Hervé Villechaize. You know, Ben Stiller is clearly mocking sort of the sort of tattoo-ness of it all and knick-knack, but he also is celebrating it. Ben Stiller's not mean-spirited. What he's doing is nostalgia for this moment and this guy, and the guy's in on the joke, and it's a pretty wonderful little skit.
Villechaize's willingness to engage with his celebrity in an ironic way really does explain his more than 3 decades of continued relevance after his death. The character of Tattoo remains instantly recognizable in parodies and tributes, while the HBO film My Dinner with Hervé in 2018 reintroduced Villechaize to new audiences, revealing the humanity and complexity behind the myth. Through that lens, Villechaize's life now stands as both a triumph and a tragedy, a story of groundbreaking success, personal struggle, and lasting influence.
Hervé Villechaize's life was as dazzling as it was turbulent, a story of triumph, defiance, and an unrelenting hunger to be seen for his talent rather than his size. With his mischievous grin, French accent, and irrepressible spirit, he redefined what it meant to be a television star of the late 1970s. On Fantasy Island, he wasn't merely Ricardo Montalban's sidekick. He was the show's spark, the joyful herald of each episode's dreamscape, a figure who made millions smile by just shouting, "Deplane, deplane." But Hervé's legacy reaches beyond the catchphrase. He embodied the idea that charisma and humanity could transcend physical boundaries, that personality could eclipse preconception. Beneath the celebrity image was a man of contradictions, funny yet brooding, ambitious yet gentle, adored yet misunderstood. Even in his final years, when the lights of fame had dimmed, he remained artistic, painting and reflecting on life's ironies, still yearning to connect with the audience who once adored him. And so it feels only fitting to give the final word to Hervé himself, heard here during an appearance on Dick Clark's live show back in 1978. It features Villechaize at his most joyful and self-assured, charming the audience with his humor and honesty during the brief bit. What really shines through is his confidence, wit, and warmth. A performer entirely at ease in his own skin, reminding everyone that his stature never defined the scale of his spirit.
You see this guy on Fantasy Island every Saturday, and he's... Are you a rancher, really?
Yes, I've got a small ranch.
What do you raise?
Horses, rabbits, chickens.
No, wait a minute. This is silly. I know it isn't by accident that you just walk out in your T-shirt and all. What is the real reason you're here? You got a book you want to plug, a record album or something?
Well, it's a lady who just sing that I like very much, so I heard she was on the show. So...
You're a Crystal Gayle fan?
Yes, very much so.
She's back in the dressing room, Hervé. You want to... Wait a minute, my letter! You forgot the whole bit. Thank you very much.